The controller told us that these objects had been observed for over 2 weeks, coming down from over 80,000 feet, rapidly descending to 20,000 feet, hanging out for hours, and then going straight back up. For those who don't realize, above 80,000 feet is space.
Is there a correlation between any of the characteristics of these UAPs, UFOs?
What we tend to see are the smaller vehicles tend to be, think of a sports car. The large ones tend to be not always, but almost exclusively either triangular shape or boomerang shape.
Werewolves? I see dead people walking around like regular people. They don't see each other. They only see what they want to see. They don't know they're dead.
The UFO UAP community was fairly surprised. Shocked might be a better word.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human.
Do you think there is life on other planets?
Well, I'm not quite sure, but I suppose there would be.
I've seen a flying saucer.
You've seen one?
Yes, definitely. At Lane Cove.
When was this?
1953.
You don't think this is a figment of your imagination?
Several other people with me saw it.
I'm not doing that. Oh, let's stay with me.
There is now a new UFO whistleblower with some major bombshell level statements.
There is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone.
This episode is brought to you by some amazing people. Richard and Fern Harrison, Tabin Rice, Kelly Lewis, Mecca Mickey, Diane Boss, Jeanette Angel, Eddie Tabb, and Dorothy Hawkins. And a special thank you to all of the subscribers on YouTube, Spotify, and now over on Rumble. If you wish to support the podcast, you can hit that join button below to become an Eyes to That Sky member. Or if you want to join our Patreon or provide other support, the links are below in the show description. But now, on with the show. Welcome to the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast, where we explore the unexplained and mysterious phenomena that have occurred throughout the state of Michigan and beyond.
From UFO sightings to ghostly encounters, we delve deep into the stories, the evidence, and the theories behind these strange events.
We are your hosts. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Wayne.
We are an educator duo that after an encounter with a triangular UFO in 2018 in Michigan, we decided to investigate UFOs and the paranormal. In this podcast, we will be speaking with eyewitnesses, experts, and researchers to uncover the truth about some of the most intriguing cases of paranormal activity in and around Michigan.
Our goal is not to convince anyone of the existence of these phenomena, but rather to provide a platform for discussion and exploration. So, buckle up and join us on this journey down the paranormal rabbit hole.
On an escalator.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. We're coming to you from Southeast Michigan in the shadow of the great Motor City. Once again, that's Detroit, Michigan. and we're deep in our underground bunker tonight. And we want to thank you for joining us on this special broadcast. It is Sunday, September 22nd, 2024, and tonight we're going to be blowing the roof off the 1966 swamp gas UFO cover-up with returning guest Ray Szymanski. So, before we get him on here, Michelle, we got a couple quick announcements. What do we got going on?
Oh, let's see. Well, this is
the
our
disembodied.
But I'm here.
But you're there. You're there.
But I'm here. So this is our first stream over on Rumble.
Yeah.
So if you're watching us there, welcome. We'll see how it goes. But just in case things heat up around here and something happens on YouTube, we have a backup platform for the show.
That's right.
You know, just never know. We already get shadow banned, so always have to have that that backup. So just head on over to Rumble and hit that follow button.
Yep.
So remember, if you would like to email the show with any stories, you can do so at mi.ufo.podcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, we've got some really good stories waiting in the wings for October. So,
oh yes, we do.
So we'll do some spooktober stories, man. It's gonna be good.
They'll be spooktacular,
and maybe we can get a CIA guy on here too.
They'll be
really make it spooky.
Yeah,
spookalicious. There's a good word.
So don't forget, if you want to make a donation to the podcast, you can do so with PayPal, Super Chats, buy us a coffee, check out our merch store, join the Patreon. All of those links can be found in the show description.
That's right. And by the way, everybody, you are continuing to help us move that dial of fighting that shadow ban out there. But according to our analytics now, 57.3% of you watching are not subscribed. Don't be scared. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that little notification bell. That way you'll know when we're going live. It's usually every Sunday. But that number was down, but now it's back up like 5%. So again, just feel free, hit that subscribe button, help us out. And we're trying to get more and more guests on and lined up. I would love to do a show maybe twice a week at this point to get more exposure on this topic. But Lou Elizondo, I'm looking at you. Your appearance here is imminent. See what I did there? No?
LOL. LOL.
Yeah.
So don't forget, if you're listening to this on Spotify, please make sure that you hit that follow button as well.
Yeah.
So, let me head on over to chat.
Oh yeah.
Let's
say hi to chat real fast.
Oh, well, I've got to start with
what do we got going on?
We've got Moon at Noon. Hello there, Diane.
Yep.
Boss is here tonight. Taven is here.
Taven.
Patrick O'Leary. What do I want to say? The last name with an Irish brogue.
Right.
Hides in Long Grass is here to hang out with us. Along, I see Rick Davis is in the house.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
Welcome and hello, everyone.
Yep. Patrick O'Leary. I mean, first of all, Patty O'Leary. You know, my stepmother, my former stepmother was highly Irish, and you know that's why my half brother's name was Danny, and it was, oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling. My Irish accent sound like I'm a little slow, so I don't know, man. I'm gonna just stop right now.
It's called an Irish brogue.
Yeah, okay.
So
that's all you.
No, it's not.
All right. Well, welcome everybody in chat. We see there's a lot of people watching. And,
Not sure is in the house as well.
So
hello,
that's okay if
welcome.
you're lurking. Yeah, it's okay if you're lurking. Feel free. Watch the show, but we're gonna go ahead and get Ray ready to come on here. So I'm sure Ray is what?
But
what'd I do?
I'm sure Ray is going to talk about this.
Oh yeah.
But Ray is going to be doing his final public presentation for 2024 called Not
right.
Swamp Gas,
Yep.
the true story of the 1966 UFO. This will be happening at the Taylor, Michigan Public Library on October 16th from 6 to 7:30. Ray will be bringing plenty of books to sell, autographing them, $15 each, $40 for the complete trilogy.
Yep.
And Wayne and I have our seats. I got my
phone call.
Yep, I got my phone call.
Yeah. So we're all set. So, And there's information down in the show description where that link you see going across the bottom of the screen is listed. Hurry up. It is free, but hurry up and register if you want to go. And with that being said, I want to stop waiting and get the man who's been on our show now 5 times.
Rayman.
The Rayman, Ray Szymanski. Ray, what's going on?
Hail to the victors.
Absolutely. What was
Hey.
it? 27-13, something like that? USC, we beat them?
No, they 27-24.
Oh, wait a minute.
They wound up
Oh.
beating them in the last 60 seconds. They drove 10 plays, 6 minutes. It was a beautiful drive.
Woo.
Their quarterback shouldn't be called a quarterback. He should be called like an 8th back because he completed like 3 of 10 passes. He's terrible. And it was Mullings who ran like 10 of the last 11 plays and won it from Michigan. Needs to put that Warren kid back in.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
my only political statement for the entire evening.
All right, that's fair enough. So, well, Ray, the last time we had you on here, it was Mother's Day, if you remember.
Wow.
And
it's a blur.
It's a blur, yeah. And we had a hell of a conversation. We talked about that Arrow report.
Yes.
We talked about that failed UFO conference at Wright-Pat. We talked about the Texburg. That does hurt. That does hurt because I was looking forward to doing that and going down there. But anyways, so it's been about 4.5 months or so. What else has been going on since last we spoke, man?
Well, let's see. I've been kind of metering my appearances simply because there's a lot of other interests. Summertime is really busy. You're doing things around the house. You got to cut the lawn. You got to chase the raccoons out of your shed.
It's very hard to get people to come on a show. I'll say that much. That's
is
true.
that right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
unless
it's
probably paying, right? But
yeah, it's extremely busy. And so I've been doing like a show a month, and I want to talk about a couple of things that I did recently. And I think that leads right into your question. When you do those shows, I don't like to do the same presentation all the time. I like to change it up. And when there's new information that I've had a chance to vet, I like to incorporate that into the next presentation because there are some people who follow me around for better or worse, within this 3 or 4 state area. They're come out of Michigan or Indiana or whatever. So I always try to do something new. And one of the coolest things, now, this isn't bragging because, I'm really a kind of a small fish in this big pond. I've done maybe 3 or 4 major conferences a year ago. I did the MUFON conference, the national conference. I've done UFO MegaCon in Laughlin, Nevada. I've done a couple of others, but mostly I'm kind of regional. So
I don't know. When I saw you with Captain Ron, when you were on that panel, you took somebody's place that called out and you were on there with Richard Dolan. Man, you blew them away. And it was fascinating. I loved it. That was amazing. I think that was for Contact in the Desert, maybe?
No, I was on this is bizarre. I was with Daniel Sheehan and Richard Dolan.
Yes.
And how that whole thing came about is people started to I'm just going to use that as a term. So you can interpret this based upon what I'm going to say next. Certain people were attacking the Travis Walton case. And they were going after it hard. So Jen Stein, who's friends with Travis and did the movie, got a bunch of us together to try to collectively reinforce what we know about it. And maybe your listeners don't really know because if you read my first book, the whole story is in there. If you read 50 Shades of Grays, I got a chance to go with Travis Walton and spend the afternoon with Travis Walton at the site of his abduction. Literally stand on the X where the ship took him up. And so when we were up there, Jen Stein had done this movie, Travis, and before it came out, what they had failed to do is take still photographs of these tree stumps. Now, the reason they wanted to take the photographs of the tree stumps is that once you look at the tree stumps, you will notice a weird pattern that the rings of the stumps have grown exponentially faster in a particular direction, and it's a centroid. And it turns out that once I was able to establish that, Travis goes, by the way, that's where the craft was hovering. So what they didn't tell me is they just showed me these stumps. I took the photographs, I mapped it out, and I went, all this exponential growth seems to be pointing towards a centroid. And of course, that's when the reveal comes out. So my part of the show was this little science experiment that I did with Travis, with me at his site, taking these still photographs. And then those photographs got incorporated in the movie Travis by Jen Stein. And then Jen called all these people together who really had done those kinds of things with Travis and knew him at great detail and had a chance to cross-examine him like I did at length and really get some information that you might not get when you read his books. So that's what that all came about. And there were two panels. And I was originally on a different panel. I was not with Dolan or Sheehan because, that was the big boys panel.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
24 hours in advance, I get this call. Hey, you're in with Dolan and Sheehan. And I'm like, what? And I got to tell you, I was so nervous. I was shaken. Because I was not prepared for the topic that they wanted to discuss, but I was able to kind of, build a bridge there and go into some other things that I knew that were related, but clearly not my wheelhouse.
Yeah, but man, did you blow them away? And you blew me away because that was the first I heard of anybody talking about the Nike missile sites around Southeast Michigan to protect the war machine of M1A1 Abrams being built in the Warren tank plant and all of the industry that was, they were worried about protecting and circling, Southeast Michigan. And that really blew my mind because, even growing up here, I was not aware of those sites. I heard rumors, and it was like those things that people talked about, but I think they decommissioned them and stuff by the time I was probably before I was even a teenager.
Well, you don't have to give your age away, but the Nike Ajax missiles were originally encircling all of the major cities, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Los Angeles, Boston. It goes on and on and on. And it's the major industrial military complex is what they were trying to protect. Then in February of 1963, there was a transition where they transitioned from the Ajax, which was a conventional warhead, to the Hercules, which was a nuclear warhead. And because in that time they were able to extend the range of the missile and the lethality in square miles, they literally could eliminate 50% of the sites and just insert every other site strategically with the Hercules missiles. Now, what I've discovered, interesting that you would bring this up, that I've had a chance to do like I just did the Flatwoods Monster Convention.
Yep.
Yeah, and I also did Kecksburg.
Yep.
And it's interesting because now, and in my talk at Kecksburg, I was able to connect the Kecksburg incident to those Nike nuclear missiles. It turns out that the object, whatever it was, and it wasn't a meteor because meteors don't make 45-degree angles.
That's right.
When they come down, unless they hit something. Well, it turns out that this object that came down on December 9th, 1965, came down right through the middle of the Detroit Nike missiles, made a purposeful turn and went right through the ring of Nikes that ringed Pittsburgh, right through the center of two of those rings.
Wow.
So what my thinking is, and I know this is radical, and I know I didn't even say this at Kecksburg. I'm thinking that, there are high energy radars. There was a tracking radar, there was a targeting radar, and there was a third radar, and that was just for each battery. So there was dozens of these scattered around, and they took hundreds of acres up with these things. I think that whatever was coming in, as it passed through the Michigan one, lost its navigation capabilities. Then it got hit a second time as it went wonky, and serendipitously wound up through the ones that ring Pittsburgh. If you take a map of Pittsburgh and you see where Kecksburg is, it's like 30 miles away. And Stan Gordon, who's the genius on Kecksburg, he and I had our table next to each other because it's his convention. We chatted, and he said, "Oh yeah, I have confirmation that object came right through that radar grid. And then 30 miles later, it touches down." So there's a connection. I'm not quite sure what it is, but my initial gut feeling is that it had something to do with the navigation system of that object. And it got to Michigan, got wonky, made it through Pittsburgh,
but it
and then
still
landed.
made it. Yeah. So do you think that these things were, or that craft was purposely going toward the Nike sites, and then something that they were not expecting interfered with it? Or do you think maybe we interfered with it?
I think so. If you think of Roswell, let's go, way back to that one. You had White Sands missile range, and there were the highest powered radars there for all those purposes, tracking, targeting, and such. And the flying saucers were seen by the people in those areas. Plus, of course, that was the area where they had developed all the nuclear materials. The 509th Bomb Group was in Roswell at the time, the only airborne nuclear squadron in the world. So they had an interest, and they've shown an interest back then, today. I think that something, maybe a blip, a high-powered radar pulse hit them. And imagine, they're traveling at great speed, 3, 4, 5, 10 Mach. All you've got to do is interrupt navigation for 2 seconds, 3 seconds.
Yep.
Two craft are next to each other. It goes 1,000 yards in a couple of seconds, and they hit, and one of them goes down. So I think it's a really good theory that they were in there snooping, doing something, coming in to see the Michigan stuff. And imagine, 1963 is when the transition happened from conventional to nuclear for the Nikes. So, and those things they stayed around till the late 70s. So there's a lot of tweaking. They're always changing targeting radars. They're always changing tracking radars. They're changing the missiles themselves, making them bigger, better. So there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of energy being radiated out of those areas. So if you become curious, there's a lot of activity there to look at. And I think that's exactly what happened. So 63 is early in the deployment of the Hercules. Very, very early. So when these things were all happening, Michigan in 66, Santa Ana in 65, the Rex Heflin photographs, Exeter, September of 1965. In fact, Exeter had Pease Air Force Base 10 miles away. And guess who was there? The 509th Bomb Group. The guys that were in Roswell had been transferred to Exeter. You had big nukes there. So all of this all ties together, that super tight wave of UFOs, 64, 65, 66, 67. That all ties in to when we were transitioning those to nuclear missiles.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I just remember too, watching that panel discussion with Sheehan, Captain Ron, yourself, and Dolan. And Dolan's supposed to be, and I like Richard Dolan, don't get me wrong. And Richard, if for some reason you see this, I'm not discounting your knowledge. Your books are very intense and very academic. But I was shocked that he was so shocked. He was like, "Can you send me a book? I got to order your books right away," kind of a thing. And I was just kind of shocked, like, dude, you're supposed to be one of the premier historians on this stuff. You're writing books in chronological order of when these UFO things were starting to happen, and Ray's not even supposed to be on your panel, and he just hit you with some insane information, and I was surprised that he was not aware of that.
Well, it kind of took a special set of circumstances for me to find Colonel Carroll. Having worked at the base, being within that unspoken network, and people find out, oh, you're a senior scientist, you're with the Wright-Pat, oh, you wrote a couple of books about this. Yeah, I know a little bit. And, you know, there's this guy that lives in the area that was a fighter pilot. You might want to talk to him.
Yeah.
Okay, give me some.
He was the commander. He was the wing commander.
Yeah, he was the head of Air Forces Iceland.
Yeah.
And that was the first line of defense against the Russian bombers coming over the Arctic Circle and coming and bombing
And
the
it
US.
was his flight out of Selfridge that went to intercept some of these things.
It was his flight, but it was one of those where so many people tell me things. They're unbelievable.
See, Ray, that's what gets me about you. I think 2 shows ago, you're like, I'm satisfied with what I've figured out, you know, and I'm glad my books are helping people, but I'm pretty much done with this. I'm satisfied. I've got my answers. And I said, you know, and there's always something that ends up pulling you back, Ray. Just like me. It's like I look at Michelle and I go, you know, this summer really sucks. It's hard getting people on. This one's really rough. I don't know what's going on. You know, we're not finding out anything new, you know, about what these black triangles are, why we saw one, why we had the experience we did and everything else. The government seems to be playing games, flip-flopping around. We talk to people that have experiences and things. Man, I'm done. I need to just be satisfied with the fact that we're not going to figure this out. We're not going to know anything. And then the email comes through, or the phone rings, or it's somebody sending a story or something. And it's like, God, there's something. And you have the experience of always running into somebody, or somebody tells you something that sends you on the right path to the next destination, always. So I find it so amazing. And it's like you're almost tempting the universe. You know, that's it. I'm done. I'm satisfied. I wrote my
Stop
3
bugging
books.
me.
Yeah. Leave me alone, right? And then there's like a couple days later.
Well, since you brought that up, I did a talk in Dexter. That's where this whole conversation started.
Yeah.
Did a talk in Dexter that had to be last month. So as the people in Michigan should know, on the 14th of March, 1966, a man by the name of William Tremel, Treml, put a small article in the Ann Arbor News. Now, William Tremel is what is known as the cops and courts reporter. So what he would do is, as part of his job, get in 4 or 5 a.m., and he would contact all the local districts. He'd call the Ann Arbor Police, Washtenaw County, Milan, whomever, and Ypsilanti, and he would say, you know, tell me what's good on the blotter, and I'll get it into a newspaper. So on the 14th of March, he gets a story from the Washtenaw County Sheriff, and he said, well, you're not going to believe this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. 3 of my deputies were out 4 o'clock in the morning, and they were looking in this direction, and 3 of them were together. They happened to be together, you know, exchanging a handoff or something. And for 90 minutes, they watched 4 lights in the sky, rendezvous, go up, down, left, right, do all these fancy maneuvers, hover. And they watched it for 90 minutes, and they were colorful, strange lights. And so William Tremel took the notes and told Sheriff Harvey, well, thank you. So he calls up the cops in Milan, and they go, now, Bill, you're not going to believe this, but we had 2 officers had these objects hover 1,000 feet over their head between this hour and this hour, and they did all these crazy things. And then so he had like 4 or 5 jurisdictions on the same morning tell him about the same activity. And so he's a bright guy. He puts it together. And in my talks, I tell people, like, I flash up this article. I got it from the Ann Arbor. I got it from the Ann Arbor Library, and they have the archives of the Ann Arbor News. And I tell anyone, if you're a journalist, you need to study this, because this is a PhD in journalism. This is the way an article should be written. It's only about that big, but it is information dense and intensive. So when you read through there, you find out there's a dozen police officers and somebody who probably served the rest of their life in the brig from Selfridge Air Force Base said, we saw these things too. It's the only article ever in the whole history of the swamp gas flying saucers that quotes somebody from Selfridge Air Force Base. So on the 14th of March, all this stuff happens. Then a few days later, on the 20th, a flying saucer lands on the Frank Manor property in Dexter, Michigan. Dozens of police officers were on the property that night and chased lights, a flying saucer, because Frank described it as wide, quilted, lighted. He described the lights. But these cops were there chasing around these lights for 5 hours. And just north of there, on a road called North Territorial Road, there's an observatory. What's that?
Very familiar with that road. That's my old stomping grounds.
No kidding. So Peach Mountain Road goes to the observatory. There was a police officer there. The cop was interviewed the next day. His name was Honeywell. Officer Honeywell was up there, and he went ahead and described, well, here's what happens. A couple of years ago, I get a email from a woman who says, hey, you put this book out, this swamp gas book. My property adjoins where that flying saucer landed.
Oh, man.
I want you to come out and do a scientific thing, which we did. And the results have not yet been released. So we go up there, we do our thing. I've been back a couple times. So now a person who was with us told me, I have 2 ladies who were witnesses. They were up on that hill that night with Officer Honeywell. They weren't in his car, but they have a story to tell you. Well, I was so wrapped up in this tour thing and getting swamp gas out and doing shows and stuff, I just let it go. And then Dexter comes along, and I knew months in advance. So I contacted the ladies and I interviewed them.
I think we played part of their tape at one point.
No, the only time I played a tape was in Dexter. I played a 7-minute tape in Dexter.
Okay.
Which I'd hope to play tonight, but I've got some technical difficulties, so I won't. But I will tell your audience about this as a foreshadowing of what's going to happen next month when we get to Taylor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good, because that's one of the questions I was going to ask you. What can the audience expect?
Well, let me finish Dexter, and then it'll be a nice segue in. First of all, 3 years ago, right after my book came out, I got an invite from the lady who's the adult services director at Dexter Library, and they booked me, and I was going to go up there, and then COVID hit. So rather than cancel, I did a presentation on Zoom, and I did it from the library. So now 3 years go by, Dexter has their 100-year anniversary, and they want me to tell the story of the flying saucer. So I rebook into Dexter. I find these 2 ladies through my contact. I interview them at great length. And then for Dexter, I took one of the ladies, and of course I compare, I do the transcripts, and I compare what they each said. And they're not an identical match, because they had different functions that night. One lady had her 2 preschoolers in the back seat asleep, and she was driving. The other woman and her co-pilot are married to brothers. They were sister-in-laws. So they had a family connection. But when I interviewed them separately, and I did not let them talk, I asked them not to talk. The driver remembers certain things like passing the police car, because that Peach Mountain Road is 1 lane. And they had to kind of go off the road to get past the police car to go up to Peach Mountain because they saw the flying saucer up there. They saw the lights. And the funny thing is, the police officer was looking south onto the Frank Manor property and didn't see the flying saucer behind him. So I get the 2 story of the ladies, and the one who was the passenger remembers more of the light pattern and where it was with respect to the radio tower and how it approached them. Because again, the other lady was driving and has other functions that she's doing. But when they were going from point A to B in the Frank Manor farm, all of that synced up 100% perfect. So what I did is, rather than take the 90-minute interview, I sliced and diced a nice 8 or 9 minutes. And it tells the story of how they first got onto knowing that the flying saucers were there in the area, who they were with, where they traveled, what their routes were, seeing the police officer. A great detail on what happened to them, the scary thing that happened to them. So I go to Dexter, and they have a beautiful, beautiful meeting room in the basement. It holds 250 people. Now, I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but I can tell you, 5 days after that was announced, they had reservations for 250 people and others calling the library trying to get a seat. I'm standing at the front of the room. A half hour before we go on, the room is full.
Oh, yeah.
I've people,
seen the pictures.
You saw the pictures. Other people are ringing the room.
Yes, they are.
Almost too deep. And as I'm getting ready to hit the button for the first slide, I've watched a couple of dozen people come down the steps and be turned away because there were no more seats.
People want to know. People want to know.
You know what, Wayne? You could have heard a pin drop.
Yep.
In that room. And when I played Connie Bell's 8.5-minute testimony, it was like a religious moment. Seriously. It was the crescendo of my public speaking career, and it was because I wasn't talking.
Yeah. Well, I have Ray, last year, when you were on our episode 54 in April of last year, you brought one of the clips. I have it right here. The Dexter Witness. 2 minutes.
Oh, did I let you have the Dexter Witness?
Yeah, because you also gave us the Colonel Carroll reading his letter, and his, what I want to say, signing off on, being able to publish his story in your book.
Yeah, he read a statement.
Yeah. Yep.
But you don't have the full clip. I did not release the full clip.
No, I have the 2 minute and 27-second one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you mean the Colonel Carroll clip or the Connie Bell clip? How long?
This was, I think, before you were releasing her name, because it just says Dexter Witness.
All right. So it's Connie Bell. She's all good with it. And, only good things have happened. So what I'm planning to do for the next one coming up in Taylor is I have her sister-in-law's testimony. And
Nice.
I'm hoping to have time to edit that and play that also and play them both, but it may be too lengthy because that library is only open till 8 o'clock. I only have an hour, and man, that's really quick. So I might just choose the other witness.
Yeah. And everybody that's listening, I want to do this real quick. I want to, I'm going to share this with everybody so it can be up there on the screen as well. I've been putting the link into chat. But this is where you guys want to go to register for this. It says right here, maximum capacity for this program is 50. Michelle and I registered as soon as Ray told us about it. This place is right up the road from us. All right. So we're definitely going, and it's going to be Ray's last performance presentation for 2024. But this is it, people, and they will call you and confirm. I mean, we got a call from a real live person saying, your seats are confirmed and all that. And they'll call you before the event. But I'm telling you guys, you got to get there. You have to get there, and you need to register like right now before they shut this down. Who knows? It could have already been shut down and we just don't know it yet. Or maybe they'll be able to maybe add in some extra seats if they've got the room. But
I don't remember Taylor Library being that huge.
It's not that big. Yeah. So anyways, everybody hit that link that's in chat and get over there to this page and fill this out, and they will call you and confirm you. So you definitely want to be there. All right. So Ray, man, I'm excited. I am. This is one of the first UFO things I can say that I'm really excited to go and see. Now I've been to the Cosmic Summit with Randall Carlson and a lot of these bigwigs talking about ancient technology and things like that. But that's kind of my hobby as a earth scientist, and learning about civilizations that have been here and gone and nobody knows what's happened to them and all that. But this is really just what I want to hear. I want to see it, and I want to see it before you shut down for 2024. But I know there's going to be something that's going to pull you back in. There's going to be something that's going to hook you and pull you in. And I don't know. I hope it's something worth your while, that gives you some meat on the bone that you can dig into. Anything?
I had 6 witnesses, new witnesses from the Dexter event come forward, and I can't reach it now, but I posted pictures on my Facebook where one of the witnesses gave a very robust, distinct thing. And not only that, she painted a picture of it, which I was able to procure from her, and now sits proudly in my office. And I have another 5 witnesses yet to debrief and find out what they know. But these people came forward afterwards and said, I never told anybody, but I'm a witness to the March 20th or to the Hillsdale one, the 21st. And I really like to tell my story, and I'd like you to hear it. So I've been methodically working my way through, and I'm thinking if I ever do a full-blown appendix to swamp gas, I would include their things. Or if I ever decide to do another book, these most certainly have to go in there, because these people have sat on a secret, and they were kids, 10, 11, since 1966, and they didn't dare tell anybody. But now the stigma's gone. We got the book out there. I appear in their backyard, and they're going, here's my story. So I said, well, let me take care of these people who want to buy the books first. We ran out of time. I had them give me a name and a phone number, and now I'm just working my way back through that. So yeah, there's something I'm really interested in, because it is that 1966 swamp gas story. So I don't need more evidence, but I think it gives depth where there's not a lot of depth yet. We have just the Frank Manor testimony.
Where do you think this stuff's going to lead? I mean, everybody screams disclosure and, the government's going to come forward. They're not going to come forward, this, that, or the other. Where do you think this is going?
I'm hoping a lot of these people were disturbed by what they saw, and they were disturbed being called names, and they felt they were belittled. And, it's the way that the people who didn't want this out played it, and that everyone was going to be stigmatized. But now there are those of us who are helping, including the government reports. And if you wanted to talk about those ODNI reports, it's very interesting. I just started looking through them again. You look at the first one in 2021, and they said we have 144 incidents reported by Navy and Air Force aviators.
Only.
Only 144. And they said, we got to be honest, we've only had 18 months to look at them, but there's 143 we can't possibly explain. So then you look at the one that was released in 2022, and they say, the first thing they admitted to is they said, all right, we told you we only had 144 cases. However, during the time span that those 144 cases were contained in, we discovered another 119 cases of Navy and Air Force aviators that we didn't get included. So now you have 250 some cases. And then they said, and by the way, we now have, in that 18-month period since the last release, we have 200, this is hard to believe, we have 279 new cases that are not of those 144 and 119. We now have 520 cases of Air Force and Navy aviators. And oh, by the way, we've only been able to dispense with 100 of them, and we had to put them in a gray basket. Of course, we're not really sure. We kind of got an idea that they're drones and UAVs and other mistaken identities, but we haven't run them to bedrock yet. So,
right.
And now the other ones they're like up to 800. These are just military encounters.
What do you think people are doing? I mean, what do you think us Joe Schmoes out here on the street, they have a 300-foot black triangle hovering over the road that we drive under and wonder what the hell's going on, 12 miles away from Detroit Metro, there's this giant craft floating over the road, now what's interesting, and I told you this before, what was interesting about our encounter, and we've become pretty good friends with Micah Hanks from the Debrief and, in his show, and he's friends with Christopher Mellon, and Mellon contacted us and said, hey, look at this guy from the Navy, his drawings of a triangle craft that he witnessed, and how similar is it to yours? 90%.
Wow.
90%. But he's got it because that's a Navy guy, right? So they're only, I don't want to say they're only interested. Maybe that was the whole side project of A-Tip and Lou Elizondo and who was it, Bigelow and stuff, looking into things, or they were just trying to get money out of the government. God only knows, but perhaps they were more interested in us lowly peons in our experiences, kind of that breakaway group. You guys deal with the nut jobs, okay? We'll deal with the important guys flying $5 billion stealth bombers and stuff, and we want to see what's psychologically wrong with them. But I've never heard, though, do you remember, was it 2 years ago or so, where there was I want to say it was a FedEx DC-10 or some kind of heavy lifter doing cargo, and they got overflown by a long cylindrical object, and they reported that, and it was in the news and everything. So it was like a cigar.
I don't remember that, but I remember watching a recent TV show done in 2023, and the event happened in 2023, and there was a cargo plane. I don't remember what type of plane it was, but it was, the guy said, so-and-so heavy, do you have anything up there? No, we don't. He goes, well, I hate to say this, but this thing went over us very quickly, and it was cylindrical shaped like a big cigar. He goes, it could have been a missile, and I certainly hope they're not shooting at us.
Because it was over the test range or something, right?
That might have been the same event. But I just watched it. There's a new show. Again, I have been so busy. I've been traveling my butt. In fact, a Friday I was at the Columbus Zoo with my son and his wife, and so there was that. And then Dr. Bruce Solheim is in town here. He's been a guest on your show.
Oh,
And
multiple times. We absolutely love him. He's great.
well, I got him a speaking gig in New Carlisle last night. And so he did the gig, and then he and I had breakfast this morning, and we exchanged books because we hadn't seen each other for 3 or 4 years since we were both speakers at the
Yeah, he
UFO
just got
Mega
into
Conference.
Yeah, you just put a new one out. Yeah.
He did. And so we exchanged books. I
Yep.
gave him a copy of Victoria's Secret Truth, and I got a copy of his We Are the Aliens.
Yep.
And then I played golf with my son this afternoon, and I showered, and I had a quick meal, and I'm down here in my basement, and God knows what my wife has waiting for me when I get up there. So, I'm telling you, I hope it's a stiff drink because I have earned it today.
Look, man, there's no such thing as retirement, man. You can't get away from it. Just like you can't get away from this UFO stuff, man.
I can't. I'll tell you a great story, totally unsolicited. So my cousin comes to town, and his son-in-law works at NASIC, formerly FTD. So we all go out to dinner, and I purposely never talk.
Can you explain real quick what FTD is for people listening?
FTD is the Foreign Technology Division, and back starting in 1947, they created Project Sign, and it went to Project Grudge, and then Project Blue Book for 17 years. And basically, they were the people that cataloged flying saucers. It is proven, beyond a shadow of a doubt, they really never investigated. Their job was to explain away these things so people would be disinterested in it. In fact, in Dexter and coming up in Taylor, I'm going to explain the how and why that happened. And there's a very reasonable, logical, and potentially acceptable explanation as to why Blue Book operated, in that mode. So my cousin's son-in-law and we purposely never talk because I don't want to get him in trouble. Someone goes, "Well, you're talking to that UFO guy." So
yep.
You sit 3 seats down. We're never going to talk. But my cousin was in town the week before. I promised him when he ever came back, I would give him a copy of my Swampcast book. So I bought 2 copies, one for him and one for his son-in-law. So I signed the copies. I hand them over. Then I find out from my cousin's daughter that night, my cousin's son-in-law goes home, is playing with the kids, and has a toy of theirs, like a scooter, tries to do a curb jump, falls on this little scooter, and breaks his hip. He has to go into surgery the next day, and he's casted up, and he can't go into work for 6 weeks. My response to him was, there are some people who will do anything so they can stay home and read Swamp Gas My Ass.
Yep. Did he read it?
Well, he is going to read it, I suppose, unless he has other taskings, but he's all casted up. There's nothing, he can't do anything. I bet he can barely go to the bathroom. I feel bad for him. But he said, "Oh, I'm going to read the book." Of course he's going to read the book. Of course, I totally disrespect Blue Book in there because I out them. I prove that they were phonies and their job was public relations, and so he'll get a big kick out of it.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, you have the document, don't you? Didn't you show us the document on one of your appearances of where?
Well, I have a lot of things, but you know what? I found something better.
Their mission.
I found something better.
Okay.
It's in the words of J. Allen Hynek himself. It's J. Allen Hynek's book, the Hynek UFO report. He spent over 300 pages detailing how Project Blue Book fooled the public. He took case by case and he said, "Well, here's how we handled that one. Here's what we did to that person. Here's how we made them nuts." Then he would take another case. "Well, this is how we handled these type of cases." And he would show 5 or 6 cases in detail, and he would show the explanations.
Dude, that's so messed up, man.
It is so messed up. But it is the best evidence because it's the guy. It's the only person who was there from day one through the last day. He knew where all the skeletons were, and he published them in his book. So I just point to that. I tell people, don't buy it because Hynek's estate has enough money.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Take my word for it. Get it from the library.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I had stuff from Quintanella's personal library.
Well, since we brought up some Wright-Pat and FTD and all that good stuff, when you were last on our show, that was a big topic that you brought up about a big meeting that had taken place with certain people there. And then there was a new squadron of about 100 people that were tasked to show up. Can you talk about any new developments or go back a little bit and talk about that for our audience and explain to them?
Yeah, Space Force.
Yeah.
They're partitioning off parts of different intelligence agencies to support specifically Space Force. And of course, NASIC. I mean, they were National Aerospace Intelligence, whatever, and they've changed names again. They're going to just keep changing names to confuse everybody. So that's what's happening. They're splintering off a certain sections, not only intelligence, but other support things, logistics, to help Space Force become, whoever they're going to be. But what happened is that congressional bill was passed that the law was passed that they had to cough up all this information. And then just before they were ready to do that, our local representative Turner met at former FTD, NASIC, whatever they're called now. And they had the heads of the intelligence agencies there, which doesn't happen. I'm guessing unless they're in Washington at the National Security Council, they're never in the same building at the same time. It wouldn't make sense. But they were at Wright-Patterson with our representative, who was able to swing enough votes then to reduce the amount of information that was coming forward, long anticipated information. So, my position is, I always like to be the Switzerland. I like to be the moderate because I've been on the inside and I know that you have to make tough choices. And, do I make a choice for my country? Do I make a choice for my family? Do I make a choice for my job? And so you have to be more understanding. And there's the radical people who go, oh, all the information needs to be out here. And I'm saying,
true.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
No, you paid for a lot of it, but you didn't pay for all of it.
Right. Especially
the people that are screaming, they're flipping burgers somewhere. You pay $12 in federal tax. So you don't have a voice.
Yeah.
So they made these tough choices, and I think the people need to be satisfied with the ODNI reports. And the ODNI reports say a lot. They say flying saucers are real, they're a safety of flight hazard, and a potential national security hazard. I don't know how much more you need. Do you want to be beamed up? Well, maybe they can make that happen. And I know 100 people. I know 100 people I want to push to the front of that line.
You're not going to mention any names, right? But their initials are...
I'm not going to mention any names right now. But I think you got to take a moderate stance on this because...
Absolutely.
And you have to be satisfied. Imagine, for 75 years, it was a prancing planet, Venus, stars in unusual formations, weather balloons, and that. And now flying saucers are real, man. Just make your contribution. Look up, get pictures, do some research. Don't just scream for more information. Bring it out. Be the Lou Elizondo of your neighborhood.
Right. Well, you can see what happened with Elizondo. By the way, have you ever crossed paths or talked with Elizondo?
The closest I got was the International UFO Congress when he was the leadoff speaker there, and I can't remember what year, and he was doing a Zoom. And that was the first time I had heard of Lou Elizondo. But, I mean, he's in the stratosphere, man, and I'm a ground pounder.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, he's had the best-selling book now for shit since it came out, honestly. And I'm about 3/4 of the way through it. He makes some pretty interesting claims in there. One of them is, he held or was given an implant that had some type of a DNA gel that moved around it so that it could move through. It was from a foreign pilot, and they had removed it. And I don't know, man. I honestly, I don't know what to make of him, and it's just so hard. It's just so hard because it's like he's walking that line, like you said, where you got to be careful, right? You can't just give away national secrets, and you always constantly have people pulling apart everything you say. So you got to be really careful. But his book was approved, right? It had to go through the Pentagon, and there's some kind of damning stuff in there that I was actually surprised is out there. But I don't know. What's your take on this?
Earl Gray, who runs the Southern Cal MUFON, just published a very short excerpt from a recent Lou Elizondo interview. And I listened to it a couple times and I parsed it very carefully.
Okay.
And it turns out that a lot of what he said in the interview is pure hearsay, and it's weak hearsay. He was talking about Roswell. They asked him a question and he answered, well, I have friends who said that they got access to the files and they saw Roswell files, and Roswell was a crash saucer and there were alien entities and they've examined them. Well, that's meaningless because had Lou said, I saw the documents, I read the documents, I was able to establish the provenance of those documents and everything that was stated in there. Now you've got something. But when you say, well, I have a friend who claims he saw the papers and he read them, it's meaningless. It's worse than meaningless because it's misleading.
Yes.
And you're going to waste a lot of people's time. So, I've not read his book. I'm not going to read his book, at least not early on. So you have to parse very carefully what he says, and go to Earl Gray's website, read that little, listen to that little 2-minute excerpt, and listen to it very carefully, because the believer is going to go, yeah, he knows all about Roswell, but listen to exactly what he says.
And
he never says that.
Yeah, and does this make things worse, man? Because doesn't that just give fuel to the fire? Like, you and I are satisfied. Like, you don't have to convince us. There's these craft, these things are happening to people. You're even deeper in it than even I am. But does that kind of stuff that he's doing, is that making it worse? Because then that adds fuel to the fire of the people that are like, dude, where's the evidence? All you're saying is he said, she said. And so where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? We've got all this weird stuff going on at Wright-Pat. We got squadrons coming in, heads of intel having meetings, and then, oh, look, Space Force is showing up there. What are they going to be tasked with? Oh, they're satellites, right? Yeah. That's very weird. And why is it Wright-Pat? Is that the best place for them to be? Or is there some reason for it? And national security aside, it's like, I worry that people out there like Lou Elizondo, and I wish he would come on the show and he could talk to some of this stuff, but he sent me his agent's contact number. I've contacted his agent, and we'll get back with you, and that's about it. He's got the big dose.
Space Force is not at Wright-Patterson. Space Force is at Patrick Air Force Base in Florida. That's where they're headquartered. So you have elements, just like got FBI right there in Washington,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
headquarters, and they're all over the country, all over the world. Well, Space Force is going to be the same way because our space assets are all over the country and all over the world. So wherever we have those assets, we've got to have personnel. So it just so happens that NASIC, FTD, whoever the heck they are now, have some assets that can be applied to Space Force. So they grab some assets, and for the most part, they'll probably stay in place. So Wright-Pat's not really anything special to Space Force, but you've got to believe that they're special to flying saucers, because you had all those chiefs of the intelligence agencies meet at Wright-Pat in the unit, the organizational unit that cataloged those for decades. And then, you've got the right guy from the committee and the Dayton guy. So it just seems like it was a coup d'etat.
A perfect storm.
Well, I think the intelligence chiefs told Turner, you are going to turn off this next release of information. It's your job. And they didn't send the deputies. They sent the chiefs.
Yeah.
And so a deputy might not intimidate a congressional representative, but you damn well sure they're going to intimidate that guy as the chief. And they had all the chiefs there, and they probably made it known in no uncertain terms. You're going to go back. It's going to happen, but you're the guy, you're the action officer. You're going to make it happen. And he did within a week or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
The spigot got turned off, and everybody went away happy. And I don't know if there were any trade-offs, except Mike Turner, we're going to let you live a couple more weeks if you make this happen. But, don't get on our bad side, man.
Yeah. And didn't you say it was the base commander there that got fired at some time around that?
Very, very. I'm hoping it's a separate incident. It was within days, within a couple days. We're relieving him for lack of leadership, and I'm going.
Yes, sir.
You want to think deep down in your heart it's a coincidence, but you go, well, sprinkle a little conspiracy sauce on that.
Yeah.
Who knows? No, we're never going to know. And I really don't. I don't care. I don't want to know. But I was disappointed in a way that Turner made it happen, because we're always looking forward for a little bit more news, because you've opened up the floodgates, right? You've told us they're a safety flight hazard, they're a potential national security hazard. Give us a little bit more, meat. So until then, we are just going to keep doing the government's job of uncovering the good stuff.
Yeah, why don't they contact us? Man, why didn't they contact you so you could point them to 50 real researchers that know something? I mean,
they show up at every one of my briefings. They do.
I can't wait till the October one. I want to see who shows up, because I'm going to be like, there's a Fed. There's a Fed.
No, they'll tell you. They'll identify themselves at the beginning. I did this.
Raise your hand.
I did this in Flatwoods, West Virginia. Again, I did it. All right. Flatwoods, West Virginia. Last year, we had about 250, maybe 300 people. It was a one-day thing come through. Well, this was the second year, and there was some turbulence amongst and between the organizers. And they had great speakers. They had Dave Spinks, who's on every TV channel. He does all the paranormal stuff. They had Joe Perdue and Ron Lanham. They're the big names in Bigfoot. They had Frank Ficino, who wrote all the books on the Flatwoods Monster. It was an all-star lineup. I was the final speaker, but super hot weather. People had other things to do. The dates changed. So the Mothman Festival turned out to be the next week. So people had to make choices. So I had only about 20, 25 people in the audience at the very end of the day, the last speech. So I usually ask, how many people in the audience are currently or formerly employed as intelligence agents? And I figured I'd get zero. Guy puts his hand up. I said, it's not mandatory. You don't have to answer. He goes, oh no, we want to thank you for doing our job for us.
Yeah, you're not a very good intelligence agent if you're admitting to being an intelligence agent. I mean, I guess they could say something like, well, there's a difference between an officer and an agent. An officer is in charge of the agents. The agents are the one actually doing the work. And I mean, these guys just seem like, yeah, no problem, man.
They raise their hand and it's like they got a little script. They go, thank you for doing what you're doing, man. You have saved me so much time. You have no idea. And there's one guy that have shown up at least 3 of my presentations, and one was the big MUFON thing. And I've seen him here locally, and then I saw him in another state nearby. Same guy, and he doesn't hide it. He sits dead middle, center, usually in the first couple of rows so he can hear better. And he knows I know he's there, and he doesn't care. He was in Michigan. He was at the Dexter one.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure
he shows up about the 4th row, and I find him. He can't hide. It's really funny. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I don't tell state secrets, so
right.
Maybe they'll learn something.
Oh my God! So I just wonder, like at like Contact in the Desert, like these big ones, man. These big ones. How many of them are like counter intel guys? What do people know about what they're seeing flying? Let's find out.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I had an experience.
Doubtless. Yeah. And here's what cracks me up.
That's why they brought Lou in, bro. That's why I think Lou is who he is. I think he's a good, I hate to say it, I think he's a good liar. He can play the game good to get information out of you. That's what those guys do. They're trained to do it, and they know how to do it.
Yeah,
they will make up a story to get you to talk to them.
But look at what information Lou has brought out. Lou brought out those videos. You can't top that. There is nothing I could possibly say or give away that would top those videos. There isn't. Unless I had an alien and grabbed them by the hand and trotted them in. There is nothing else you could say.
Dude, because I don't know, man.
But you would have no proof of it. You would have, there is no stronger proof than those videos of those flying saucers. I can't think of any. Because it would be hearsay. If I said, well, I was at Wright-Patterson and I had a friend who was a biologist and he took me in and I, had a mind meld with this alien. It pales in comparison to the videos that were released. So he, in my book, is responsible for getting the best evidence we've ever had out into the public. And I don't care if he lies 1 million times about Roswell. It doesn't matter. Look at those videos.
I don't know, man. David Fravor, man, and that fighter squadron that went after those things. And then you got Ryan Graves out there.
Were those their videos?
One of them was the Tic Tac.
So again, personal testimony does not trump a video.
Yeah. Well,
that's been tested and tested.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, that's when you bring a counter intel guy in, that's his job. Like, but what made him want to release it? You know what I mean? It's like, I'm still waiting to get to that part. Like, why? And it wasn't just him. It was Christopher Mellon, and it was a little group of them that I don't know if he had something on somebody or what. And he was like, if you do something, I'm releasing this stuff. So that's the stuff I want to know. Like, what was behind them releasing it?
I know what you're saying. I know what's on the surface, because Lou said, I thought this information should be released, and that's why I forced the issue. So Colonel Carroll from Swamp Gas My Ass, he said the same thing. I said, why now? Because you never told your wife, both wives, you never told your children. Why would you do it now? And he said, the world needs to know. And I think Lou, if he didn't use those exact words, he said something very similar. The world needs to know. And
Yeah.
that's why I couldn't get my bosses to move forward with getting the information released. So I took it into my own hands.
Well, there, it's probably like, hey, look, the cat's out of the bag. Everybody's talking about their experiences on the internet, and all this stuff is going on, and more people are being believed than ever before. Why can't we share what we have? At least some of it. I mean, that makes sense too. But I don't know.
I think you and I have been over this.
Yeah.
Look at economic advantage. If we've got a carcass of high technology that we're reverse engineering and we're spinning this off to our industry, and it makes us a stronger country financially, then there's really no need to share this, because indirectly we're sharing the technology, cell phones, fiber optics, whatever it is,
Right.
better integrated circuits. So the world is taking advantage of it, but we're reaping the financial benefit. You don't see the Chinese or the Russians giving us ships full of free stuff.
No, they steal it.
That's what they're doing.
Steal it. Yeah.
And it works both ways, but there's a lot of, business espionage going on.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't make sense for us to admit that we have something that maybe for the next 200, 300 years, we can slowly, as we're ready for it, spin off this technology and keep us that strong country, because natural resources only last so long and they're gone. Look at Europe.
Yep.
What's left? So everyone's, stealing from South America and places that haven't been exploited before. America's only so big, especially if you don't close the friggin' border. And now you have 7 million more mouths to feed who are using the resources and generating trash that we have to get rid of and using those resources. There's a limit, and we're far over that limit. So
that is true.
If it's a financial, technological advantage, I wouldn't give it away. I would fully agree with all of those intelligence officers that met here with Mike Turner and those. Great decision. Not getting any argument from me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're both military guys and stuff. So, my whole thing is I'm all about America's primacy. I mean, we need to be the number one country. There's no being equal with anybody else. We need to be the top dog, because we're the only ones that seem like we've got a good thing. But, people want to kind of pull us down, and you can't say America's great. What about other countries? You're going to hurt their feelings. Honestly, I don't care. As long as we're number one and we can take care of ourselves and our citizens. And then when those people pick up the phone and they call us because one country neighbor is invading them and they need help and they're an ally. Yeah, we can be anywhere in the world in 18 hours with a fighting force on the ground that will decimate anything that we come across. Anything. And that is because we're the greatest country there is to help provide people with freedom and at least the ability to make the decision on how you want to live your life and not be forced by the barrel of a gun to, adopt your neighbor who really wants just your resources and whatever else. I mean, we saw it with Kuwait and Iraq. We see it, all of those places. And, I agree 100% with you on that. We got to have America still be the top dog.
And if it requires us keeping the UFO secret, we need to keep it. That's all there's to it.
It's the worst secret now, though.
It is, but if there are different layers to it, perhaps, and I think some of those layers are, if we've recovered craft, it's a technology that we're reverse engineering and that we're spinning off to our industries to make us number one.
Yeah,
and then eventually the other countries will steal it and clone it, and then it'll all come back as counterfeits on those ships. You ever watch that show? Contraband stopped at the sea or whatever. Contraband stopped at the border. Oh, watch it Monday night, back to back. You have to watch that show. Your
Okay.
mind will be blown at how desperate these people are to make money in our country, and how we need to prop up our borders. Like, I'll just say it's China. I think it was actually a ship from China. And you know how big those containers are, right? You could
Oh, yeah.
stick a third world country in them.
Oh, yeah.
So they find like 30 of these containers with multiple billions of dollars of cloned goods. Rolex watches, Saint Laurent stuff, and Klein, and all the names that I don't even know because I shop at Kmart's. But it's amazing and how good they're getting at making these clones and basically disrupting what is a reputable business. And doing that with technology, right? Bringing in electronics and stuff that are knockoffs of, the best headphones or the best whatever, the Walkmans or whatever they use now,
Right.
Apple phones. They're
Right.
they're just desperate because we invented it here. We had the technology. Just imagine what happens if we start spinning off. I mean, we gave them alien technology. Well, we're no longer number one, folks. I mean, they're so good at spinning off all this stuff. Just wait till they get that technology. No,
Yeah.
we don't want that to happen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, in world global, in global politics and things, you don't want to be at the same level as everybody else, guys. You really don't. That's not the place to be. You don't want equality and equity as a country. That's not what you want. Because if you think that Russia, China, North Korea, South Korea, India, Pakistan, Venezuela, if you don't think they want to be the top dogs and make sure we're at the bottom, then good luck with that. Because Israel, you know how many Mossad agents and stuff are operating within our country stealing?
I dare not ask.
Dude, it's insane how much the French secret agents and stuff that are infiltrating this country constantly and stealing things, right? Everybody steals from us and we steal from them. That's what counterintel does. They want to know what they're taking, what other countries are taking from us. I mean, Jesus, dude, everybody wants to be the top dog. So I don't understand why everybody thinks that we need to be at the same level as everybody else. No, we don't. No, your quality of life is going to suck at that point. So, yeah.
What did you think about the following? As part of the Olympic prize, when you won a gold medal, during the Olympics that were in Paris, the medal winners all got reputedly what was a piece of the original Eiffel Tower. Because every time they repair it and they've got to replace a girder or something, they take the old one and they store it somewhere, if they have to do metal analysis. Well, the French got this great idea. They probably had a whole warehouse full of this material that they didn't know how to get rid of. And they said, we got it. Cut it up into little pieces. We'll put it in the boxes. And we're going to get this distributed all over the world for free because the Olympic medal winners are going to take a piece of it away for us. Is that brilliant or what? I thought that was brilliant.
They become, what is it? Salvagers, right? They turn everybody into salvagers and they're taking the material to get rid of it for them.
I thought that was freaking brilliant. So, you know what? When we got the Olympics coming to LA in 4 years, they ought to give pieces of watts where they burn down all the things during the ride. Hey, here's a piece of a charbroiled home. You're going to take a piece of LA home with you, man.
Right.
Get it out of the country.
Or, how about a small piece of like a homeless person's tent?
May contain lead or asbestos.
right?
Oh,
Or
oh.
a little scoop of some San Francisco homeless shit on the sidewalk, you know? I mean, that way they can say that they've cleaned up the city. I mean, it's crazy.
Or maybe a used hypodermic needle.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, how about some fentanyl? Let's get that sent back to China. You know, we
Send
can
it
give
back.
that. Yeah, we can give that back, you know, to their athletes in 4 years and have them take that back. I mean, it's absolutely crazy, man. It's like the world has gone nuts. I think COVID broke everybody. It just broke everybody. Everybody's just, you know, lost their minds. But
Well,
I don't
Wayne,
know.
I think it's time for me to wrap this up.
Yes, sir. I was just
I'm
about
just
to
going to
say
put.
that.
I'm going to put a final plug in October 16th around 6 o'clock. I plan to be there. I would, if please register, but everyone should show up around 5:30 because I'll be there ready at 5:30. So if you want to book beforehand,
And
okay,
there's the
you can
link
get it
in
beforehand, and then afterwards there won't be a big rush. So get there early by 5:30. I'll be all set up. Get your books, get settled in your seat, and you make sure you get a seat. And then, you know, if you got a couple questions, we'll try to answer that afterwards. Probably 60 to 70 minutes, 15 minutes question and answer. We could have gone on for 3 hours in Dexter Q&A. Such great
I bet
comments and stuff, but you know, you have a deadline, people want to go home, and then I had a line out the door for books and such. So, you know, we got to make sure everyone gets taken care of. Get there early, be quiet, ask your questions. I'll answer as much as I can.
Yep. Sounds great. All right. Well, Ray, this has been great. We had a really kind of a rough start because I sent you the wrong damn link. That was my fault. I'm still recovering from a migraine that made me lose my vision for about a half hour a couple days ago. It was pretty bad and took me a couple days to recover.
Wait till you see Ray's Facebook post that's waiting to be approved.
Uh-oh. Oh no.
To see my what waiting to be approved?
No, it's the Facebook post that you put on the group about the waiting for Wayne.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But
awesome.
Dude, it's your show.
Where you at? Right.
Well, it was just a link thing. It was just a link thing. You got it right. You got it right in time.
Yeah. So it's all good, man. So, well, Ray, you know what? This has been awesome. As always, man, I had a lot more questions for you, but we'll talk on the 16th. I'm sure everybody, Michelle and I are going to be there. So make sure you guys come out. We'll talk to you guys as well. We don't have any books or anything like that, but we can give you a business card that'll get you to our show. So, all right, Ray.
Lovely.
All right. We'll see you on the 16th. Have a great one, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a great night, Ray.
All right. Let me see. All right, Michelle, since you're just a token over there,
I am.
a little icon that says loading.
I'm the token typer over here.
Well, you're busy over there in chat and stuff. That's fair. So, all right, everybody. I think it's that time. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. We got to thank Ray Szymanski for showing up. Look, everybody, if you're in the area, if you're even close to Taylor, Michigan, click on that link, sign up before they run out of seats. The link is down in the show description. It's been up in chat. Just click on that, fill it out. They'll call you to confirm your spot. Join us there. It's going to be a good time. Let's see what else. What else do we got going on, Michelle? Next week we got Nathaniel Gillis. He's gonna kick off.
Nathaniel's back with us.
Yep, we're gonna talk about the whole demon possessed AI robots and all kinds of crazy stuff and his research into aliens and things. We're gonna talk more about that. The Collins elite, you know, the religious people that are fighting against a lot of this stuff. I don't know. I think they know a lot more than what they're letting on to.
Always.
What else do we got going on? I don't have my notes. So I think that's really it. So October 16th. Oh yeah. So people watching on Rumble. I see there's a few people on Rumble. Yeah, we got just a small group over on Rumble. I released this show as an audio podcast about a day after the live show. So everybody, if you want to listen to the show, It'll be out there on Spotify, iTunes, all over the world. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you'll find us. All right, Diane, I see you sitting there saying bye to everybody. So thank you. Shelly also showing up late, but hey, you're here. Thank you guys. And with that being said, Michelle, what do we say?
Have a great night, everyone.
Have a great night, everyone. And remember,
keep your eyes to that sky.
To that sky. Let's get out of here. Where's that button at?